afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on immigration is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Welcome back. It must be Wednesday, 6:30. I'm delighted to join with you, my fellow podcasters who are more responsible for making this podcast the lively podcast that it turns out to be, and your input, even though at times you attack some of my thoughts, but always with dignity and with good insights that add to my own knowledge and wisdom. So keep it up. Not necessarily the criticism, but the interaction with me and this podcast. As one of the great educators once said, he learns more from his students than he does from his teachers. So you all add more to my wisdom than all the reading I do and all the knowledge I come to the program with. And because I love you all, I love to start off by giving you some insights about how to be happier. If I could make you all happier, it would serve me better than anything I could do. That's the goal in life, to help others to be happier, to cope with the aggravation and the challenges of life. So I have to tell you, even in my own case, and I wrote this book, it's fabulous. It's not fabulous because I say so. It's fabulous because everybody who calls me raves about it and tells me how much it's helped them as they read one page a day. It's 365 pages each day, giving guidance and suggestions on how to be happier, how to cope with life. And, I have to tell you, my own experience is that sometimes I overreacted. Not sometimes, often I overreacted. I sweated out things. I almost had nervous breakdown. I was on the verge of suicide. And it turned out to be nothing but in my head, the fears of what might go wrong, or what I thought was on the verge of going wrong. And in some of those cases, the end result was better than I could have ever hoped for. And some of the things that I thought were going to be great, it turned out, and I never worried about, turned out to be disappointments and letdowns and reversals. So the first thing is, you should realize that if you live as a human being, you're always going to, if you live long enough, you're always going to face troubles, aggravations, reversals, disappointments, losses. So the best way to deal with any of that is have a very optimistic approach. Remember what Solomon said when things got bad. He said, "This too shall pass," and it will. It will. And so my best advice to you, even just as important as getting a copy of the book Happiness Guaranteed. What is it? the black thing on the screen, Len?
It doesn't
Okay.
show.
Thank you. This book, I'm so sure you're going to enjoy it, love it, appreciate it, and benefit from it. And because you're so special to me, all of you, I say, if you get a copy and you pay for it and you don't enjoy it and you don't find it's worthwhile, I'll not only refund whatever you show me you paid for it, but I'll send you back double. So that should give you happiness. Getting double when you what you spent and were disappointed in. So, and I can do that because so far everybody who's returned a call or sent me some commentary or criticism about the book has been so appreciative and so positive that I'm confident that you'll feel the same way. But if you don't hesitate. I can't say I'll be happy to send you double your money back, but I definitely would be, at least make you happy that you get double your money back. So I don't want to take any more time with trying to convey the importance of your making up your mind that you're going to be happy, and don't let all the interim things between being born and passing on to paradise because of your good behavior in this world. Think of it as experiences that are helpful and that will help you grow. As I think I mentioned this before, but somebody asked Thomas Edison. Medicine, is it?
Thomas Edison.
I know, Thomas Medicine. Thomas Edison, how come he was always stuck to this pursuit of developing the electric light and electricity and all the things that he developed when he failed over 1,000 times before he succeeded? And so one gentleman came up to him and asked him, this was a professor actually that asked him, Mr. Edison, how come you never gave up 1,000 times? If something doesn't work for me 10 times or even less, certainly more than 10 times, I throw in the towel. I figure I'm going up the wrong path and it's not going to be productive. So how do you account for the fact that you wasted your time and failed 1,000 times and still stuck with it? So Thomas Edison said, who told you I failed 1,000 times? And he said, it's common knowledge. It's been in newspapers, it's been in stories about you and so forth. He says, well, they all got it wrong, whoever said that. He said, I never failed once. If I thought I failed, I would have given up. I never failed once. 1,000 times I succeeded in finding out what doesn't work. So each time I found that out, I got a little closer to the success. So that's the way you should feel about reversals in your life, about disappointments. And there are disappointments that you can never change, a loss of a loved one or something. But still, you have to make something positive out of everything. People that are healthy, they lose a child, they start a foundation in the name of that child, a fundraiser to help cure cancer. And they're always thinking, what a good thing that child has done for this world in the short time that he spent here. There are some people, there was some gentleman, an older gentleman, who just lost his daughter in Israel, on the 7th of October, when the Israeli musical concert was attacked and 1,400 people were killed, and worse than that, raped and maimed, and little kids had their heads chopped off, and women had their private body parts mutilated. It was just horrendous. And he said, this girl was so special. She was in her 20s. She was so special and so, it's such a loss to the world that she's not here to do all the good things she would have done. Even in her short life, she did so many good things. And he said, even in passing, she left all her body parts to others to cure them, to help them reconstruct whatever was maimed or crippled or they were deprived of. So you got to look at the positive, and it's not easy. Believe me, I know. I lost my wife, and I was heartbroken. I'm still heartbroken because she was so special. I was hoping that I'd go first, and I think she was hoping that I'd go first too. Anyway, so it's not easy. But then every day I think about her. I have a frame on the counter where I eat breakfast and dinner and lunch. And I see her doing her old speeches that she made in her lifetime, and wisdom that she conveyed, and humor that she extended to everybody. So she left a legacy to my 4 daughters, to my grandchildren, to my great-grandchildren, even to my great-great-grandchild. Where we had our first great-great-grandchild in the year before she passed away. So yeah, you have to take the best out of what is, and the best of what is all the years that I could think of that she gave me so much joy and nachas, and left my daughters with so much upbeat trust in God, trust in life. They're never angry about things that go wrong because they say, and they have such belief. That's the way God wants it. He knows what he's doing. We can't judge. I say, yeah, but look at the terrible things we see people could go through, accidents or something. And they always tell me, if you came from Mars and you stopped at a critical surgery at a hospital, you'd see a surgeon and a bunch of helpers all around him cutting into a human being. They'd go back to Mars and report how cruel these people on Earth are. The head guy has got a long knife and he's cutting bones, and even a saw when the bones are saw when the bones are need to be cut by something stronger than a knife. And so they clearly be making the wrong judgment, because the doctor there is doing something, we hope, or at least is attempting to cure that person of some onerous disease or some horrific disease like cancer or worse. I don't know what's worse. So my kids had that same attitude. We don't know what God intends when he does something that we think is terrible and we can't explain it. But they think God always does the right thing. And that's the kind of training my wife conveyed to them, and they conveyed to their kids and their grandkids. So God bless my wife, and God bless my kids, and I'm blessed to have had them. God treated me so well. I don't know how he how he punished my kid, my wife, by making me her husband. But he always gave her optimism, because when I was 25, we were married she was not even 18 and I was 21. And when I was 25, we had, I think, 3 children by that time, 3 babies. And I got very, very sick. And we went to the doctor, and my wife was with me, and she asked the doctor for a diagnosis, a prognosis. What do you think about this illness? And the doctor was very cold and forthright and said, I hate to have to report this to you, but I don't think your husband will ever make it beyond 30. So I was 25 to 30, so most people would be very taken aback. She was optimistic because she said, 5 years I could take him. 5 years, So she thought she was going to sweat out 5 years, and then she'll get a break, I'll disappear. Anyway, after I hit 30, every morning she used to get up and say, Morty, are you 30 yet? And she suffered through that for another 70 years. So, don't always listen to the bad news. There's good news always that converts from bad news. So be happy. Damn it, be happy. Make up your mind to be happy. Don't let anybody depress you. Don't let them give you stories that are depressing. If anything, if they're depressed, you help lift them up. Give them a pep talk. Give them an ear to listen. Be kind, empathetic, sympathetic. Don't say, don't be abrupt and say, oh, don't worry, this too will pass, or, it's only, you're going through a tough time, but it'll be better. Give them some optimism about the future. Like say, remember, Ethel, we have a date to go skiing in Vermont in December. And, something to look forward to that takes away from the current moment that you're so immersed in, and it imposes on your mind totally because it's so devastating. So you're in control of your mind. Make up your mind. You're going to keep your mind happy all the time. I don't want to take up the whole program with a lecture on happiness. But please, if you won't do it for yourself, do it for me. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy. And now I want to discuss what we set out on the internet earlier today. The subjects we want to delve into. It's mostly about immigration, but it's always about all the current events. So why don't I let Len, who's a genius, who I invite back on a regular basis. He's almost my co-host now because he's so brilliant. Like me, he's a graduate of Harvard Business School, like me, at the top of his class. And I enjoy his wisdom, even though he often disagrees with me. But I guess if he says it, it's probably right. Anyway, Len, what do you...
So, these days, you pick up the newspaper or turn on the TV, there's on the election cycle, I think there's really two main issues on each side that each side is trying to attack the other on. The Democrats are attacking on democracy. We're going to lose our democracy, and women's right to choose. I think those are the two highlight issues. And the Republicans' two big issues used to be economy and always immigration. And so today we want to focus on...
And also taxes.
But you don't hear... They always say...
They resent the fact that the government collects
Right,
taxes
right.
and spends it in a way that they don't.
But if you watch, like the in our district, in the 3rd District of New York, this special election between Mazi Pilip and Tom Suozzi, all the TV ads and issues that each one brought against the other was really in this race pretty much exclusively immigration.
Yeah.
Republicans, the Mazi Pilip's ads say Tom Suozzi, basically single-handedly caused the migrant crisis.
Really?
And he is basically Joe Biden. And the Tom Suozzi ads say Mazi Pilip.
I just said Tom Suozzi.
No, but I'm saying the Mazi Pilip's ads against Tom Suozzi said the way that they attacked him was by portraying him as a Biden clone and someone who single-handedly caused the migrant crisis because he's a Democrat. So therefore, he must have caused the migrant crisis. And then on the other side, Tom Suozzi ads attacking his opponent, Mazi Pilip. He attacks her. She's a MAGA, hand-picked MAGA, and she's pro-life, and she's
Or against abortion.
Yes.
Because pro-life is not a bad thing to be.
Right. And then and they quote each other. They quote Mazi
So
Pilip.
maybe we should bring back. Maybe we should bring back Santa Claus, Santos.
And they somehow weave him into the whole thing too. That she's another George Santos. I guess
For those who don't know,
I saw something that she,
for those who are not familiar with our congressman that somehow got elected through fraud, nothing that he said was accurate, all lies. He said how successful he was, how he graduated from City College with honors. City College said we never heard of him. He said how he's Jewish because there's a big Jewish program in our district on Long Island.
He basically lied about everything. Where he went to school, what he did, where he worked, what he said.
They said, Jewish, we checked it out. He said, well, I am Jewish. I don't know what that means. I'm a Jewish. He was a real character, and he refused to leave the Congress, and the Republicans were reluctant to kick him out because they only had a small token majority, maybe 2-vote majority. So he was important to keep on. But finally, he had to submit to the pressure, and he left.
Not the pressure, he kicked out.
Was he kicked out?
Yeah. He wouldn't resign. He was expelled. So that doesn't happen a lot, and it needed bipartisan support to get him expelled. But even some Republicans stood up.
He was a character, and because he was such a character, if it wasn't so wrong and so fraudulent, it would be humorous and entertaining.
I mean, he was indicted. He wasn't convicted.
Pull that off. Making the claims that he made.
Well, they say sometimes same way Bernie Madoff did it. Just the bigger the lie, the less likely that people will ever think it's a lie.
But Bernie Madoff at least gave dividends for years to the people who had put in the money earlier.
Yeah.
As long as he got no money in, he was able to maintain the fiction that he was such a great investor, and people begged to invest with him, and he wouldn't accept their investments unless they had a good reputation or were famous or something. Just unbelievable.
And so even in this cycle where not too long ago, economy was a big issue, if this special election occurred, 6 or 9 months ago, it would have been inflation, Bidenomics, all that, but now they can't really do that because inflation is so far down.
The election cycle is so depressing. People are voting more against somebody then they're voting. So if there wasn't a joke that I picked up along the way that made me laugh, I would really be turned off or depressed by the verbiage of election cycle, because I heard some Japanese guy who said on television, he said, yeah, the election cycle is so terrible. I started laughing. Election cycle.
But that's exactly right. In this special election campaign, the ads were all about why you shouldn't vote for the other person, and not about why you should vote for this person. It was all about attack and defamement of the other person. So
what has all that's got to
so I think
do with immigration?
So that's, of all the issues you see, I think this is like the number one issue, which I think sets the stage as to why you see a lot of the things happening. One, why you see on the Democrat side the effort to try to come up with some border solution bill, some approach. And then why you see on the Republican side, every effort not to do that. Because this has become such an issue that each side wants it fixed or not fixed. In the case of the Republicans, they don't want it fixed because then they can make it their big issue, and the Democrats do want it fixed.
But you're not given a history, because the Republicans all along were the ones that wanted it fixed. That was so brilliant. Trump, one of the leading issues, maybe the major issue that got him elected, was he said he's going to close the borders, and the Mexicans are going to pay for it.
Yep.
And he saw that, which at the time was not a big issue, because now they're saying as many as 2,000 people a day are coming in. And that sounds horrendous, because that adds up to a couple of million a year.
Over 2 million a year in 2022 and 20, compared to maybe, I don't know, a fifth of that a few years ago. It was almost nothing.
To 2,000 a day in the year 2000.
Yeah.
So how come it wasn't an issue when the Republic, that was Trump, not Trump, Bush was in 2000, Bush was the president, and it was not a major issue. As a matter of fact, they started to deal with DACA at that time, maybe doing something. DACA being the people that came here years ago illegally, but have lived here more than a decade, more than 10 years, and have worked and have demonstrated that they're good citizens, even though they're not citizens, but good members of our society. And we should give them a path to citizenship. And they were on the Republicans even were on board to consider that. And afterwards it became, you can make people that came here illegally, even their kids, which the Constitution says anybody who's born in the United States is automatically a citizen of the United States. And they said, oh no, that can be, some people just come and they're passing through, or they have a vacation here, or they just want their kid to be a citizen, so they give birth in the United States. So, but if somebody's here more than 10 years and they behaved well, maybe you don't give them the award right away, but at least you should give them some path to citizenship. But
that's the argument.
But we make out like it's
the other argument.
That it's only a current issue. It's arisen now, and they want to impeach the head of the.
Right, we'll talk about that.
Of the
Secretary of Mayorkas.
What is it called? His department called?
Is he Homeland Security?
Homeland Security.
He's Homeland
Security.
Yep.
because by letting all these people in, we're jeopardizing the homeland security.
That's the argument.
Because as Trump is quick to say, it's drug dealers and cartel members and killers and murderers. As a matter of fact, it was just announced that, what country was it? El Salvador? Lordy, was it El Salvador that said the murder rate has gone down to record lows? And Lordy was, my aide, said, that's because all of the murderers are here. They've made migration to the U.S. But that's cute.
So you have a situation where this is such an issue, the issue really, on both sides. And, I think the Democrats are scrambling to come up with some, at least demonstrating some attempt at mitigating this problem, and the Republicans, knowing how big an issue it is, I think don't want it to be fixed, because if it gets fixed and the economy's okay, then what's the how do you fight? How do you fight that battle against the other incumbent in November?
Why do you suppose it's such an issue when we're all immigrants in this country? Even Trump's grandfather, his real name was Trump. It's German name, Trump, D-R-U-M-F-T. And two of his wives were and are immigrants. So we've had, some of our best people, Einstein and Oppenheimer, who developed the atom bomb and helped us win the Second World War, and so many of the brilliant technicians in Silicon Valley, a lot of Indians, and people that were brought up in other countries and settled in the United States because there's attractive jobs for them here. As a matter of fact, one of the mistakes we make is not permitting all those that come from foreign countries, from outside of the United States, who come here to study and get advanced degrees in technology, and they get doctorates, they write fantastic papers, even books, and the minute they graduate, they're allowed to be here because they're students. The minute they graduate, we ask them to leave because they never were invited in to be citizens. They could go back home and then qualify. But you'd think we created such a valuable asset. They're so bright. You should offer them citizenship right away. So we definitely don't have a policy that makes sense.
Well, I think there's some, there's resentment when it seems like they're cutting the line, because there is a legal process, and people who are here legally went through that process. And even the argument against what you were saying before, if you're here 10 years and you behaved, should you then have the right to,
you had a job, you paid your taxes,
but you didn't do it correctly from the beginning. So is that an incentive? What they say even about this asylum thing that's going on now, if you make a path, asylum seekers, people who are granted asylum, I think, are automatically on a path to citizenship. I think if
international law.
If you're granted asylum, then I think you can get a green card in a year and citizenship 4 years after that. So, does that create a magnet?
And the way you qualify for asylum in the world. That the reason it passed that is if people are being abused in their own country, raped or clearly mistreated,
Right.
and they can demonstrate that that's true, then you're obligated to take them in.
Right. So that's a big question right from the beginning is should asylum be like a blanket reason for anyone to enter the country? And, I think you can make the case that there are places in the world where it's pretty bad, like when I think of asylum, what it should be is like when the Shah of Iran was overthrown and all the people in his government were on a target list by the new Ayatollah government to be killed. So they had to get out. To me, that's what asylum should be when people, but if you're just in a country like Venezuela where it's just bad, there's crime and there's, it's just not a great place to be living. Is that the same thing? I mean, is that grounds for asylum?
When I was a kid,
I don't know.
When I was a kid in 1600 or 15th, whatever, I forget how far back that was. The only thing I knew about asylum was Bellevue, which was called an insane asylum.
Where the crazy people
Insane asylum. So you wouldn't let insane people. But the Republicans claim that the Democrats want all these immigrants in because they tend to become Democratic voters. And I guess that's probably true. And they say that's the reason that the Democrats keep the borders open. But now, Biden just put together a law that both parties endorsed, the majority of both parties endorsed. But now Trump, who's been the number one advocate of closing down the build walls, lock them out, has been the number one advocate of keeping the immigrants out. Has told all of the Republicans now that if you vote for this bill,
right,
to lock out which was his goal, right. he's gonna bury you.
Let's talk about that.
So if you're a candidate, why is he doing that? It's nothing to do with helping the country.
He needs it as an issue. He wants it to be his.
Right.
Only I can fix it.
Right. Not only that, it takes away the issue that he beats the Democrats and Biden up for.
Because what used to be the two issues, immigration and economy, is really becoming just one issue because it's harder to argue the economy is terrible, terrible, terrible when it seems to be on a metric basis improving.
Right.
So you can't fight the numbers, so you got to pick another topic, and this is a good one. So, but let's talk about that, because here's what, so that bill, Senator James Langford from Oklahoma is a conservative senator, a respected conservative senator.
Number one spokesman.
Right, so he really was instrumental in drafting that bill. So it was going to restrict border crossings to, if it reached 4,000 over 1 week, then they could shut the border down. If they increased over 5,000 on average per day in a given week, DHS could required to do that. It would raise the legal standard of proof to pass the initial screening for asylum. So when someone came in and said, I'm here because my neighborhood's unsafe, that's not the same reason as I'm here because the Shah of Iran is going to kill me because the new government in Iran, I used to work for the Shah and now I'm going to be killed. So the standard was raised.
Well, they can't claim asylum if they say my neighbor is bad or something, but they do say that I've been threatened with rape, I've been raped. They make a strong, strong case.
Well, now it has to be stronger.
No, the problem has been, and they were correcting that in this bill, that so many people came and they couldn't find out who was telling the truth or who has a criminal record or something. Right. So, and there wasn't enough courts, enough funds to review it.
It took years,
so now,
and this would reduce it to 6 months.
So now that they said they're going to put enough resources behind it so they could cut the time short.
Right, to 6 months.
Either kick them out or... It's a good bill, or it's better at least than what prevailed before.
And that it was supposed to introduce a new process where Citizenship and Immigration Services would decide if an asylum claim is going to go through the immigration court system. So I heard Mark Rubio over the weekend. He was arguing why that's a bad idea, because it would put the decision making in the hands of in his words, bureaucrats instead of judges.
I didn't say who Mark Rubio is. So some in the audience.
Conservative senator from Florida.
As the different senators and congressmen.
Yeah, he's one.
He ran for president.
Ran for president as was against Trump until he wasn't against Trump. So his argument is that judges should be making this determination, not bureaucrats. But there aren't enough judges to do it. So that's they repeat the mantra. It's worse than what we have, which to me it seems like it's incremental improvement. Don't sacrifice the good for the perfect.
What does he say is wrong with it?
He says you're better. Nothing's better than what we have is better, because this is worse. It puts bureaucrats in charge of making these decisions they shouldn't be. It gives a path to citizenship, which it shouldn't, because automatically, if you're granted asylum, then 5 years you can be a citizen. It shouldn't do that. The numbers that the bill has, which determine when the border would be shut, way too high. Look, you can argue.
Well, why doesn't he think judges make appropriate? Why does he think they're all bureaucrats?
Because the people making the decision are from U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is a government. In his words, It's a government. Anything government's going to be bad, bureaucratic. Look, if you want to argue against the bill,
fix the bill by saying reputable judges. Even Supreme Court judges turn out to be strongly.
It's not clear that you need a judge to make this. You just need a smart person who can apply the standards. Okay. It's not really law. You're not really adjudicating law in this. So why couldn't it be someone?
Specialized judges. You interview smart people.
Call them judges, right?
Smart people.
But they don't necessarily have to be judges like the ones on the appellate court.
You could ask them how they feel about immigrants, or and I think we do that with judges that are appointed just to handle tickets that you get.
Right, but most judges are lawyers.
Oh,
most.
Then we should kill them. Well,
but in this case, I don't think they need to. I don't think they need to be, because it's not applying the law. You're just applying standards for asylum. So,
Well,
But again,
that's the law, though. What do you mean?
it is, but it's not. I don't think it
That's part of the
requires the
new
same
law.
breadth that an appellate court
Oh,
judge
so
requires.
That's what it is saying.
So call him a
That
judge.
would be specialized.
Okay.
Look, they're called judges, the ones that deal with traffic violations, but they only handle a specific segment of the. But
So honestly,
I
why?
don't know anything that's more recently indicative and evidence of the bias of judges that are supposed to be neutral than the Supreme Court. You know, before they got elected, before they were approved, the last three judges that Trump approved were asked, how do you feel about Roe Wade? And it's been on the books 50 years now. And they said, oh no, they wanted to win the Democratic approval because you need a majority to approve you. And just getting Republican votes wouldn't have got them in. So they said, all three of them testified, oh no, we're strong believers in precedent. If it's on the books 50 years, we wouldn't mess with it. And the minute it came up as an issue, they were all rejected. It didn't matter that it's 50 years. In a way, that's what killed, in my view, Trump in 2020, because women overwhelmingly
But that's why.
elected and voted for Democrats, even women that were strong Republicans,
Right.
but recognized that they wanted that freedom for themselves.
Right. And that's why
and for their
the
kids.
Democrats' two issues are abortion rights and democracy. And if you're Trump and the Republicans, you got to get people off the ball, their eyes away from what happened in 2022 and the fact that majority of the country, favored
20, it was not 20.
2022 was
The election was in 20.
but the midterm election where the
No, but the way Biden won in 20.
right, but the election after the overturn of Roe v. Wade was 2022, and so all the Democrats did very well because of the overturn.
When the law was
And so,
when the party that
right.
was elected the 2 years after always loses.
So if you're a Republican now, you want to divert attention away from what happened in 2022, where a lot of Democrats did well because of their pro-choice stands,
Right.
and you want to divert to something else. Well, how about immigration? Because that's a big one.
Yeah.
So the last thing we want to do is pass any immigration laws because that will hurt us. So that's what they're doing.
Biden,
Right, even worse.
He's the one that's pissed.
Right, because he'll get the credit.
Right.
So
The guy who's in power gets the credit.
right, so that can't be.
the
I mean, it's unfortunate because this bill, which did until it didn't have Republican support. I mean, the Senate, it would have passed the Senate until the House said it's dead on arrival, and Trump said don't vote for it, and then all of a sudden, all of the Republican senators who were supportive backed away. So they say that the House is always that the Senate's supposed to be like the adults in the room, because they don't have the 2-year crazy re-election cycle, and they're supposed to be like the wiser, calmer upper chamber.
Right.
And this, you look at it now, and it's becoming the same thing as the House, just crazy. But so I'm wondering, do you think this could backfire? I mean, I saw Biden on in an interview recently, and he said, I strongly supported this bill. I encourage Congress to pass it. I will sign it right away. And it's not right that the Republicans who are listening to Trump who says don't support it are going along with that, and I'm going to let the American people know what the story is. And so, that's the best he can do, is at least tell people what happened, because a lot of people don't follow what's going on, and if you didn't know better, you wouldn't necessarily know that this was a reasonable compromise that the Republicans called for. Right? We want immigration reform, and they got it, and then they didn't want it. And then also they wanted the bill, we won't do aid to Israel and Ukraine unless it also incorporates immigration reform. Because at some point a few weeks ago, they were saying we need to give aid to Ukraine and we need to give aid to Israel. And the Republicans said, no, well, okay, but we can't do that unless we also address the immigration border issues. So this bill that the Senate developed, $118 billion bill, addressed all three. It was aid to Ukraine, aid to Israel, and the border reform things that we were just talking about. No.
Look, as you're aware, a lot of the experts that are invited to be the hosts and the guests on the talk shows all have present the theory. They present it as a fact that Trump has no policies. All of his inspirations and his motivations are based on getting reelected. So, in this case, eliminating, which he stood for all along, that was one of his number one policy, eliminating entry into the United States. First, he was big on the wall, still supposedly big on the wall.
And this bill also provided funding to add more to the wall. So, I mean, in the absence of one person saying this is a bad bill, it probably would have gotten through, because all the other Republicans, in the absence of being told you don't like this.
Trump is not saying it's a bad bill. He's saying,
disaster.
If you vote for this bill, I'm going to destroy you. That's a lot.
He's saying it's a bad bill too.
Well, you got to say that. Yeah. But I'm saying.
Absolutely. So could it backfire? I don't know. I mean, they're certainly going to try. I mean, that's what I would do. I would at least try to tell voters that this is what they did, and don't, he keeps saying, and the Republicans keep saying it's a Democrats' fault that we don't have border reform and all this. And then at least you try and come out and say, look, we had a bipartisan bill that was basically tanked by Republicans, and doesn't it seem a little bit odd that it's exactly timing-wise to benefit the elections?
The most puzzling thing, and from Biden's point of view and the Democrats' point of view, the most perplexing is the fact that when they ask the American people in polls who would do a better job with the economy, Trump is overwhelmingly way ahead of Biden, even though all the metrics, as you say, all the numbers, everything that keeps coming out is better for what Biden's programs have done. And if for some reason it doesn't translate, either they're not giving the message, Biden isn't out there saying it often enough, or his people aren't saying it, because the wealthy people should be elated because the stock market's never been
Yep.
this strong.
Setting all-time highs again.
And then the other people, with inflation being tamed and their salaries, their wages being up, they should be happy. And in a sense, they say most people, if you ask them about how they're doing, they're saying they're doing pretty good, but still they think the economy's doing bad.
Well,
which is amazing. It shows the power of
suggestion.
Somebody
the power of suggestion.
No, the power of somebody who's decisive, like Trump.
Yep.
That's what the Americans seem to be ready for, somebody who's like that, a dictator who would say, we'll make, whatever he says, we'll make it good, we'll make it better. I'm the greatest president ever, maybe other than Washington and Lincoln. No, including Washington and Lincoln. I mean, it's just such a great self-promoter.
But I think it's in the case of the economy, it's tough because it's a kitchen table issue, and even more kitchen table because it's food on the table.
Yeah, something that's
and so inflation, unless there's deflation, grocery bills aren't coming down. They went up a lot, and it was like, wow, people
but
really.
The worst thing about that is, in deflation, people.
But they don't understand that. They don't understand that. All they see.
Go
absolutely, but all they see is the grocery bill, and what the grocery bill used to be under Trump, and what the bill is now in Biden's America. So. And then when you try to tell someone, but inflation's 2.9%, they're like, I don't know what that means because my grocery bill is still very, very high.
In the last few days,
McDonald's is cutting. There was a big story about a McDonald's in Darien, Connecticut, which is a wealthy suburb in Connecticut, for like a Big Mac Happy Meal, like not a Happy Meal, but Big Mac fries and a drink, large fries. $18.
Really?
No, that's what they were charging. I guess individual franchisees have the ability to set their own local prices. So it was $18, like and a egg McMuffin, which is like an egg, an English muffin with an egg on it. It was like $7 or $8. It was actually even in New York City. That $18 thing was maybe 13 or something, which. So McDonald's is the CEO in the last earnings call that they had was saying we got
$5 or $6.
Well, that may be. This was the meal, which was the Big Mac plus large fries plus a drink. I don't eat it, but in that, and even in New York City, which is historically been very high, it was even lower. So then the CEO of McDonald's is saying. It's a problem because they've always catered to people, who aren't super wealthy, and so here they having a problem crowding out their own customers. But that's the kind of thing that that's a kitchen table issue. And if Trump says, "I'll get your cost of Big Macs down, and I'll lower your gasoline costs," that's another big issue, right? Drill. I'm going to lower gasoline costs. Well. That's not going to happen. You could drill all you want. All it's going to do is make the domestic oil producers richer, right? Because the price of oil is still going to be $70, $80, $100 a barrel because it's set globally. So all it's going to do is it's going to make more money for the domestic suppliers. That's all.
You said set globally. It's manipulated globally by the biggest producers.
Right. But the point being, however much we drill here is not going to change that. However, that manipulation is not going to be impacted by how much we drill.
No, it'll be bigger profits for the
domestic producers.
And that's one of the reasons the stock market's so strong, because economists are arguing that companies are pushing, they're using the inflation as a reason to push up their prices, and it doesn't come down as the inflation comes down. So they're making bigger margins
it wouldn't necessarily come down. It might just stop rising as quickly, because then that's deflation. Then they would be deflating prices.
What do you mean? If competition increases and it's based on productivity, prices come down. It doesn't have to be deflation.
But that is definition of
because
of
they're
price changes. Yeah, but it still would result in lower prices.
They have a lot of control, and if the people are dumb enough to pay and have no, unions or anything equivalent to rebel against it, and they have the money, they're paying for it. So that's one of the reasons the stock market. And it's not only the what do you call it now? It's not only the high tech and the favorite 7 or 8 or 10
Magnificent Seven,
the high tech, but it's the Standard & Poor's. That's all of the Walmarts and where people shop, and they're all keeping their prices up. They're taking advantage of the consumers' mentalities. That I've got the money, so I'll spend that. That's what it costs. That's what it costs. There's no rebellion to try to put a damper on it. They don't have the power.
All right. So
we have how much left? 1 minute. No minutes. All right. It's such an interesting company and an interesting conversation that.
Well, this too shall pass.
When you're having fun,
this too shall pass.
Right.
Don't worry, it won't be.
We're not subjecting to our listeners to any more persecution. Anyway, thank you all for joining, and I hope to see you or be with you next Wednesday at 6:30. Have a great week. I love you, and you're all in my prayers for a wonderful life. And remember, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. It's up to you. You control your mind. Make your mind happy. And do whatever it takes to make your mind happy, as long as it's legal. Because there's happiness that comes from illegal behavior that ultimately leads to unhappiness.
Unhappiness, right.
So, but if you make up your mind you're going to be happy, you will be. If you insist your mind should have a positive view, or if you get depressed, you go down and do like I do. If my mind starts to get immersed with negative thoughts, I go down to the freezer and I have a chunk of chocolate ice cream, Haagen-Dazs or otherwise, Breyers, and a bunch of chocolate syrup and chopped nuts and whipped cream and a maraschino cherry. Just looking at it makes me really happy. And preparing it makes me happy. So whatever makes you happy, visiting with a friend that you love, make love. Making love is a good idea. If you could find a partner that's not resistant, but hopefully your wife. And do something that makes you happy. Read a good book. Watch a good TV program. Something that absorbs your mind and puts it in a good mood. Play with your kids, if that's fun for you. Or help them with their homework, even though that's maybe torturous to you. But when you're doing a good deed, that makes you feel good. Go visit somebody in a hospital and make them feel better. Anyway, God bless you. Have a wonderful week.